Hello, hello, and welcome to the second half of season 5. I can't believe that we're already halfway through the year. My name is Debbie Heiser. I help entrepreneurs make a lot of money doing what they love without sacrificing what's important to them. I feel an urgency to help people let go of past messaging so that they can lead a lit up life. And with that, I want to again welcome you. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show.
Straight from the corners of my mind is where I find my sanity. It's a place.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. Today, I'm talking about a mastermind. And you all know and have heard a little bit about, I have a program coming up starting in August around bringing together men and women in business who are successful, who crave having community, that you don't want to feel like you're on an island on your own, because it does get a little lonely being your own business owner. And I want to also bring out and talk in this whole episode about the beauty and the development and the depth of what happens when you actually create a mastermind. And a mastermind, I'm going to quote a few things out of The Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. And he spends a good amount of time in the introduction talking about the value of a mastermind. And when we think about the brain, and I've talked about brain science and where those messages come from and so on and so forth, but what I really want to talk about today is the fact that our bodies and our minds are made up of cells and neurons and protons and energy. And here's the deal. Energy just changes, it transforms. So the universal law of perpetual transmutation of energy just says everything is here and it's here now. Some things just haven't taken form, and we can't kill energy. Energy continues to go. It just moves potentially to different things. So our brains, and all you have to do is go see my friend Linda, who will be on a podcast soon, who is a neurotherapist, and like you can see the activity in the brains. Many of you have probably seen these photos of like a brain that has a lot of water and a brain that doesn't have as much water, and like what happens to the brain when it's being cared for. And the electrical, they do like these photos that show the heat senses, and the electrical pieces that go on in the brain are just amazing, and even more amazing because your heart has those electrical impulses too. But what I want to talk about here, and he even says this, every mind has what might be termed as an electrical field. And what happens is our philosophies, those beliefs that we have come into, those messages that have created beliefs, what we stand for, our values, all of those philosophies and general habits of thought change the chemistry of your mind. So therefore, you've heard before, like using affirmations to help rewire the brain, basically, and change the chemistry of your brain. If you can attach your thoughts to a feeling and have an emotion with it, it has a stronger response. And that's a chemical difference in your brain. Now, what he talks about is this, excuse me, this basic philosophy around collective wisdom, that we are wiser, smarter together than we are individually. And part of what he's talking about there, and I've experienced this firsthand, is that ultimately it's a merging of the minds. Like, because we have energy, we are putting off and attracting energy of other people. And that includes brain waves. That includes the electrical impulses of the heart and the brain. And so what he says here is that when you meet in a session with people that are in perfect harmony, now, perfect harmony means vibrational harmony, right? I think about, and you've heard me talk about the gals that I get together with and still do a mastermind that we had traveled to Paris together. We have similar purposes when we mastermind. We want to grow as individuals. We also know that working on our personal things also helps us work on our business and removes blocks to that. But we're working on our business, and we really look to help each other find our teacher within, but we're also not afraid to call each other on things. We want to call each other to a higher level, right? So what he's talking about here too is that when we meet as a group, and I will tell you, every time that I've met as a group in a mastermind, what happens is that I continue to level up. I continue to transform, and I have a faster transformation, because what happens is we have this, and I'm going to read this, that merging the individual minds into a mastermind, or this idea of collective wisdom, allows then also for a certain number of days to have stimulus to the individual mind. Like, I have more movement after meeting with my mastermind, after working with a group of people. My mind is stimulated in a higher frequency, and I'm moving towards growth. Now, the same can hold true. And that's where I'm going to talk a little bit to you about this whole idea of who's at your table and who are those people that you hang out with the most, because sometimes we're in relationships with people that are a mastermind that we're not wanting that, right? Like, that kind of pull it down or kind of take the energy out of it and put us into this mode of thinking that God is not for us, he's against us, and that we're having things happen to us instead of for us. And so our brains can be depleted. And so a mastermind helps with that as well. Now, when you think about knowledge, like knowledge and the sharing of this, there is a vested interest, because our subconscious, like, it's funny because we'll be in our group now and we've been around each other long enough that sometimes we already know what the person's going to say. Or everyone's right on in the same thing, right? And we have a WhatsApp communication going on all the time. There's not typically a day or two that goes by that we're not conversing somehow in that. And what he talks about with this energy is that neither matter nor energy can be created or destroyed, right? So when we absorb that from other people, we have to be very mindful about what it is that we want to absorb. And there are ways, like when I work with clients, I do a little ceremony before I get on the phone with them or have them in person around holding space for them, or when I do a retreat. And then I also do a little ceremony, and I had learned this from a healer, my friend Joni Francisco, and around also being able to let go of and give back anything that that person needs to take back, and not hold on to that myself, right? Because it is energy. And so when we think about it, it's about this blending of a spirit of your mind, creating this collective wisdom that we're able to like really dig in and create and innovate, and like, just, it's like an innovation lab. It's so much fun. And it's not just about innovation, but it's about also seeing things that sometimes we have blinders on and don't see because we're too close to it. So a couple of things around this whole idea of a mastermind is that it's a mind chemistry, and that when we're around other people, just be conscious of how the chemistry of your brain and heart waves are changing. So a few concepts on this that I want to talk about is this idea of who's at your table. And when I go to, and I have different people at different tables, meaning that when I'm looking at a dating relationship, or I'm looking at a love type of relationship, I tend to seek out and observe and communicate and discuss situations that I might be experiencing with other people that have healthy relationships. The same thing holds true in business. This mastermind that I'm in, I struggled in the beginning when I was in Paris about feeling a little bit like an imposter because I was not at the same level in my business that these women were. However, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. That's a growth mindset. A fixed mindset wants to be the expert at everything. And so I love being around these women because they all bring something different to the table. Some have experienced up and downs and failed and came back stronger and now have multi-million-dollar businesses. Others have continued to grow and they're growing and hiring team and now to a point where they want to do something different and still have their team run the business. Right. So I'm learning so much from them because there's an exchange of energy. I come from a place of having a lot of leadership background and how to lead and manage and care for a team of people that you are setting a vision and helping them get on the same bus with your vision. So we all have these different things that we bring to the table. So when I think about my business, I'm going to those 4 women. For the most part, there's a few other people, but I'm going to those 4 women and putting them at my table. And I think to myself, what would this woman do in this situation? How would this woman handle this in this situation? How would number 3 and number 4 handle this? Because each one of them comes at it a little differently. And I trust and know them. And this is the beauty of this mastermind, because now I've chosen this collective wisdom. And I'm a firm believer that even though Napoleon Hill talks about how for a few days it will stimulate the brain, I feel like being a part of a mastermind for a period of time, you get to know the people you're with and you start to subconsciously think like they do. And so that's this whole idea of who's at your table. Who are you looking to in your head? Now, I'm not talking about going out and asking 18 people to affirm your decision, because then you're not taking personal responsibility to make the decision, right? Because 9 times out of 10, what happens is you're going to ask all that affirmation because you don't trust yourself and spirit in you that you're going the right direction. And that way we don't have to feel like we're accountable for it. So anyway, that's another podcast there. But who's at your table? And for different segments, right? Like when it comes to my nutrition and health, I have certain people sitting at that table that I'm choosing to also listen to and discuss and have those conversations around and learn from them, but also give back, right? So give that some thought. The other thing I want you to think about is that we become like the people we hang around. It's this sharing of a mind, right? It's a sharing of what happens in this chemistry of the brain. So think about, who are the 5 people in your envelope? Friends, spouses, kids count, but they, as far as like, they have some real wisdom. And I've worked with a lot of high school kids that, man, they're smart people. Oh, even middle schoolers. Well, even elementary school. But like when it comes to business, they'll say things that it's like, wow, that was impressive. But think about who you surround yourself with. And if it's people that continue to try, and I think about the Macy's Day Parade, I don't know why, but these balloons. And if they are people that continue to pull those strings to try to keep you where you're at, and they're doing it out of love, a lot of times because they have a fear for you that they want to keep you safe. And sometimes it's subconscious. They want you to stay the way you are because it's uncomfortable when you change. So who are those 5 people in your envelope? And honestly, I evaluate every month, like, who are those people that I'm hanging around with? Now I have a couple of best friends that will be best friends forever. But like, if I'm feeling like, man, I've been really intense lately and I just, like, I love the way this person thinks and they're super fun and I need to add some more fun into my life, then chances are, and it's not always this like mindful, I'm not doing this just because it serves me, but it's like, I look to other people because I gain from them, but I also want to give. That's the law of reciprocity. And I'm giving, not expecting anything in return. But if I'm hanging around 5 people that are always intense, that intensity is just going to increase. So it's important to look at your envelope of 5, and it can be more than 5, but the people that you hang out with the most, are they diverse? Do they think in different ways? If that's something of value to you. Like for me, it's valuable to be around diversity of thought. I want to hear different thought processes. I want to have that stimulating conversation. And I enjoy diversity in all manners, right? Like what we consider diversity, but also diversity of thought, diversity of ways of doing things. And I want to be in an environment too of inclusion. And so, like, am I hanging around people that are inclusive? Or are they exclusive? And so this just gives you some ideas, right, of things to think about. So think about who you surround yourself with. And I was at a conference one time and somebody said, you know what, list down the 10 people that you consider friends, family, coworkers, and what are you giving to them and what are you receiving from them? Now, I have some people in my life that I love dearly. I'm not going to cut them off and not have a relationship with them. But I also know if I'm like super sensitive about something and I tend to need to have a little bit more energy, I may choose not to reach out to them as much for just a little while. And then I come back to it, right? And so it's not about cutting people out, but more so just thinking about who you surround yourself with. And there's a great book called Mindset that talks a lot about the growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And this might be hard for some of you to swallow, but if you want to be the smartest person in the room, because you feel like you get respect, you feel like you get love from that, you're valued, then it's important to look at your core wounds and uncover that. And that's more of a fixed mindset. It's okay to have that, but just know you're not going to grow. If you have a growth mindset, it's about bring it in, right? Like I want to talk about it, create as we go, collaborate. And that's not for everyone. But again, look at who's at your table. Think about the people that you are surrounded with and the 5 people in your envelope. Now, why I have you do that is because there should be for you and for them ways that you are depositing in their evidence banks and ways they're depositing in your evidence bank so that the next time you go to do something, I'm going to share with you, Wendy Schultz was on a show earlier. And she owns a vacation rental place. And she has had a business where, and she's very vocal about this, where she had a business selling items to like Airbnbs, hotels, through a large company that a lot of people get boxes at their doorstep every day. And she was cut off at the knees with that and lost everything. $1 million business lost in like an hour. Came back, did something different, shifted. So her money stories are very different than my money stories. And she's done a lot of work around those money stories. So when I think about investing money when my cash flow may be a little tight, and knowing that by investing that money, it's going to increase my business, which therefore brings in more money, that's a good investment. Right? Also this idea, and you want to be a good steward of your money. So I'm not saying go out and get credit card debt and get all this debt, but debt is leveraging other people's money. So if someone goes out and gets an SBA loan for $50,000 that 3 years from now, they plan to turn their business into $1 million business, that's a good investment. You're paying a few $1,000s in interest over the course of 3 years to grow your business from $100,000 to a 7-figure business. That's a good investment. So I always think about when I face money decisions, I look at and say, okay, what stories am I bringing back? Isn't that interesting? And I'm doing that without beating myself up. And then I think to myself, what would Wendy do in this situation? And I do that with all of those women, but just in different avenues that they have. And so that's just an example then of how then you're integrating that mind and this collective wisdom that together you grow more, you make a bigger impact together, and you transform faster than if you're doing it by yourself. Same thing goes as a business owner. If I try to do everything by myself and I don't have my awesome team behind me that are helping me do things, I mean, I even consider my house cleaner, Shelly, to be part of my team because she allows me to come home to a clean house where I feel peace and I'm able to then step into my lane of genius and not be cleaning. And she loves to clean. You know, she's turned the music on, some books on, and she loves it. So think about who you surround yourself with, how they put things into your evidence bank so that when you approach a decision, you have evidence that it works, that the universal laws, that the mindset, all of those things, that it works. So if you'd like to talk more about this subject, I highly recommend to you go out into the show notes, click onto my website. It's simply www.leadyourlituplife.com and set up a time to chat with me. I'd love to talk to you more about this. And if you really want to experience the beauty and the community and just the like depth and breadth of what a mastermind can do and how this collective wisdom will help you lead a lit up life and also lead your business into that next area that you want to lead it into, whether it's you want to get it ready to sell, whether or not it's you want to increase your scope, or whether or not you want to leave it the same but increase your revenue. Whatever that may be, if you want to experience that, reach out to me because I am starting this program in August. I cannot wait. And it is packed full of rich and deep things to help you as a business with your vision and your strategy, execution of tactical items, mindset shifts that we've been talking about, as well as a mastermind. It includes coaching. It includes a transformational photo shoot, 2 beautiful retreats, one in Mexico in August, one in Costa Rica in April, where everything is paid for except your transportation. So your flights and your transportation to and from the hotels. And it's a fabulous group of people that are really helping each other level up. So if you'd like to join in on that, please reach out to me and let's have a conversation about it a little bit more and see if you're the right fit for it. With that, folks, have a fantastic evening and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks so much for listening. The song Ride is co-written and sung by Miss Jackie Wilson and her collaborators Tyler Banks, David DJ Lee, and Chris Renee. And a huge shout out to them for allowing us to use this perfect song. Everyone have a fabulous week and I'll talk to you next week.
Find your own kind of happiness.